The single most valuable skill you can learn as an actor is not nailing every line. It's actually learning how to recover when things go wrong. And trust me, in today's industry, things will go wrong. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how you can take those inevitable mistakes, whether it's forgetting your lines or missing your cue, and turn them into opportunities to win the room and show that you can handle anything. By the end of this video, you'll know the key steps to handle mistakes like a pro and use those moments to not only save your performance, but make your work unforgettable. Let's dive in. As artists, we have this feeling or this need to want to do it right, do it perfect, get the words right. And it can be very hard to not go into it with this idea in mind, right? To go into the to performance with this idea of what it should look like or how it should sound or the things you want to hit or doing it right. And the problem with that is when you put it in a box like that and you try to control what it is, you actually imprison your creativity. You completely cut off the thing that makes it so magical, the thing that is your art. And the truth about art is that art is messy. Art is not perfect. Art cannot be put into a box. It is something inherently, in order for it to be art, that also has to be messy. You have to be able to fall down. You have to be able to risk that that happens for truth and for real moments and authentic things to happen. And if you're living in this box of what it should look like or what it should sound like or being word perfect, then you end up taking away the very thing that makes that art happen, that brings your truth out. So this came to me, one of the most powerful things that happened was a few years ago I went in for an audition, and it was a producer session. I'd already sent in the tape and gotten the call back. And so I went in for this producer session, a live read, and I went in, and in the room, in the waiting room, they brought out an extra set of sides and they said, "We want you to do a cold read for the second scene." And so I had prepared the first scene, like the one that I shot on tape, and I had it ready and prepared. And I had maybe 2 minutes to look over this other set of sides for the second scene. And so I'm sitting there looking at trying to get it in as much as I can. And they come in and they call me in. And I grab my stuff and I go into the room and I say hi to everybody. There's probably about 8 people behind the desk. And I sit down and they're like, okay, let's jump in. And I start with the first scene, the one that I had prepared and sent the tape in. I finish the first scene and they say I go right into the second scene. And I remembered maybe the first line or first 2 lines, and I had the essence of what it was. And I say the first line to my reader, and I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden I look down at my page because I knew I had a big monologue after that. I looked down at the page and I realized I had grabbed the wrong set of sides. I was looking at the girl's sides that was in the waiting room. So when I put my stuff down, I must have grabbed the wrong set of sides. And I am literally in the second scene looking at the wrong sides, having no idea what I'm supposed to say. And normally, me a few years ago would have, I mean, I would have melted. I would have stopped and I would have said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Um, Please, I grabbed the wrong sides. Can I go get the other sides real quick?" And, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the way I would have approached it. And then I would have been so in my head that there's no way I could have done a good read for that second read. And I would have just walked out of there being like, I quit. I'm done. I can't do this. But instead, this time, I knew the story somewhat, even though I didn't know the words, and I decided I was just going to have an argument with my wife, which was the scene, which ended up happening. And so I just dug in and started arguing with my reader. And I just remember her turning bright red and looking through the pages. And I just kind of used that and went through the scene. And finally, I think I finished with like, you know what? This is what you always do. And I stormed out of the room. And then I open the door up when I come back in and I come in, I sit down, I look at her and I'm like, I'm sorry, like whatever. But everyone's kind of laughing. And I stayed in that scene and I stayed in that moment and just went with it, even though I had no idea what I was going to say. And I left the room. I'm driving in my car and I got a phone call immediately saying that they wanted me for the role. And I just sat there and the whole way home, I was like, that was such an interesting thing that just happened because my first 6, 7 years of training and working and going into rooms and auditioning, I never in my wildest imagination would have imagined me being able to do that, and it turning out to be good. Not only did they want me, they then called me. The person who had written the script called me that night saying how much they wanted me to join the project, and then the next day, the executive producer reached out to me about try if I wanted more money and if I wanted to be able to help write, like all these things that I never would have imagined, all came from a massive screw up. And to me, it was this light bulb moment. It was this moment that it was like, this isn't about the words. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about making sure that it has to fit into this box. This is about just being able to be in the story. And it doesn't mean that you want to aim for that, but what it does mean is that you want to be able to be fluid, and if something like that happens, to make it an opportunity to showcase you being in the story, to showcase you living in the moment. And so it was such a valuable lesson that really freed me up in all of my work after that to it's okay if you screw up. It's okay if you mess up. It's actually an opportunity for you to allow for things to happen that you never could have imagined happening. And so today I'm going to give you a few things, a few exercises, or a few steps you can take that you can start incorporating to try and build that muscle and reframe situations from messing up to opportunities for showcasing your art. So the first thing that I would suggest is to stop apologizing with your work. Make an effort to go out of your way to not apologize. Even if you mess up, even if you make a mistake, even if you completely drop out of the scene, instead of saying, "Oh my God, I'm sorry," which I see all the time, even in self tapes, even with reads like this, to take the mindset of this is art, and in art, it's messy, and that's okay, and it's a part of the process. And how you handle that mess up is going to make that room see that you understand and can deal with that, or that you're going to implode and not be able to handle the situation. So you have an opportunity that if there is a mistake, if you mess up, instead of saying I'm sorry, oh my God, I'm sorry, can we start over, you handle it in a way that is something like, can we take that back real quick? It almost showcases to them that you understand and you know how to live on set, and that not you don't handle situations of stress and discomfort. You don't crack under pressure. You just allow yourself to shift. One of the most valuable things I learned when I first started getting on set was I booked a film with Michael Shannon, or it wasn't a film, it was a project. And on that set, there was Shea Wiggum and all these people that I looked up to that were the cream of the crop, that were incredible actors. And seeing them on set, how they handled a mistake, it didn't even look like a mistake. They literally would just go right back into the line. They would stay in that moment and just, let's just take that back, and that was it. And nobody around them, they literally just saw it as a part of their artistic process. And we can start training for that right now. We can start implementing in our self tapes, in our auditions, even in the things you put up, that when you make a mistake and when things happen, don't take yourself out of it. Allow yourself to kind of go right back, stay in that moment, and get through it. And what you'll start to develop is a little bit of a muscle that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's just a part of the process. So that's going to be the first part of it. um and the second part of it is something that I don't call it, it's called wu wei, and it's the art of letting go. And this came to me from the theory of or Taoism and Zen Buddhism. And it's this process of letting go of the outcome, not desiring anything to happen. And if you can get good at that practice of letting go and letting go of attachment to the outcome, you free yourself up for amazing things to happen. But that takes work, and it takes intentional work of you going into these things, whether it's your self tapes or an audition, practicing letting go. Something that I do a few exercises for this. One of them is I watch an Alan Watts video, which if you're in the playground, the actors community, I'm gonna link of a link to this video that I use. It's just a 10 to 15 minute Alan Watts video on Wu Wei and the art of letting go, and I watch it every time I have a big audition, just because it frees me up a little bit. It puts me in that childlike kind of curiosity. So that's one of the parts that I do for this. I also do breathing exercises and a little bit of a mantra and a meditation that I do to kind of get me in my body and get me away from thinking of it having to be any certain way. It's just a very simple exercise I do where I put my hand on my head and I say, quiet my mind. I quiet my mind. And then I put my hand on my chest. I open my heart. And then I go through the motion of taking a dagger across my guts, and I say, I spill my truth. So quiet my mind, open my heart, spill my truth. And that's just it's a little mantra. It's not that you have to use mine, but it's something that kind of gets me into that place where I get rid of the outcome and the expectation, and I allow kind of anything to happen, because that's the goal for me, is to get myself to a place where anything can happen. And then the third part of this process, something that you can take and implement, that I think has an amazing gives you an amazing opportunity to start to develop this muscle, is a process that's in the 30 tape challenge. Some of you have partaken or done it already. It's my first lesson, called Ride the Wave. And what it is you start putting up your tapes, and putting up some of your self tapes, and allowing yourself to have, or making sure you get through to the end, no matter what happens. Whether you, even if it means you have to go back and pick up your sides to keep going, we want to really develop this muscle that I stay on track no matter what. You start to make your kind of that thinker in you say, all right, well, this is what we're doing and this is what we're going with no matter what. So I guess we just have to figure it out. You don't give yourself that eject cord to say, I'm going to start over. You start incorporating and getting yourself to stay on track no matter what. Now, this doesn't mean that, if you're shooting a scene or if you're in a live audition and it does go off the rails, that you forcibly keep yourself going. This is in your practice. This is in your exercise. This is in your tapes that you're putting up to get better, that you want to develop this skill. When you're in the room and when you're doing something, if a mistake happens, it's okay to take yourself back. Just make sure you're not apologizing for it, and you want to have that kind of pro outlook, or that mentality of, this is just a part of the process and I'm just going to take this back right there. But by developing that skill, and developing your self tapes to where you kind of force yourself to stay on track, you notice that you start to open up that box. You don't have to have control of it anymore, because you instinctually start to keep it on track and keep it going in the right direction. And it's such a valuable tool to be able to start your tapes with that mentality, to know that this is going to happen no matter what, and let go of the right or wrong of it, and just make sure you keep it through it to the end. So that's another part of it. And then, just as a little bonus, I had a teacher that I worked with, Sarah Mornell, who gave me this great lesson, and it kind of goes back with the first concept of not apologizing. She would say that so many actors, when they go in the room, they it's hard not to be. You're so appreciative of being there. So you go in with this, like, thank you so much, thank you for having me, thank you for letting me in here. And we want to kind of, it's not that we're not grateful for the experience, but we want to let go of that. And I thought she had a great thing that she would say, is that when you finish your tape, no matter what happens, and they say thank you, you make sure the first thing you say is, you're welcome, because you just shared your art. You were just vulnerable. You just opened up, and what you just gave was something special. Whether it was good or bad, or you got it or you didn't, or you messed up, you still had the courage to show up and share your art. So the first thing you want to say in response to that is you're welcome. And then you can say thank you for having me. But we want to develop this mindset that what we have is special. And it doesn't mean that it has to be good, but it is us sharing that vulnerability and being, vulnerable in front of other people. That's a gift to be able to give that to people and to share that with others. So the first thing you want to say is you're welcome. So that's three things you can do to start incorporating this. If there's anything else that you guys find or that you guys think could help you, please share it in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, the 30 tape challenge is starting soon. Don't worry, it's free. So if you're not in there, get in there. And as always, stay curious, stay inspired, and stay young. Break a leg.